Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Webinar Wednesday. We're excited to have a good day here. And we've been talking about it's been hot around here, hot in the whole state, a little bit of rain, hopefully comes soon, sooner than later. We all need it. So just excited today to have Rebecca Hager talking today about working with youth, that middle school age, junior high age group, and how to keep that group engaged and involved and different things to look for in that age group. And if you were at spring training in April, you probably heard part one with Scott, Brianna, and Rebecca talking about working with Cloverbud age group. So this is the next age group up. So Rebecca's going to talk about that today. She's the agent for Fort Berthold, so we're excited about that. Just a little advertisement too about some more webinar Wednesdays. We're actually going to have a Wednesday on a Monday next week on the 19th, and we're going to have it at 1 p.m. instead of 11 a.m. Samantha Lawman is going to be talking about county fairs and achievement days and how to get ready for those. And so that's this coming Monday, the 19th at 1 p.m. And I'll send out a reminder about that. We'll take off June and July and then come back in August. And on the 13th of August at 11 a.m., Brianna Kaiser is going to talk about working with high school age youth, the third part of this series that we're having part two today. And then the 27th of August, Rochelle is going to talk about her new volunteer handbook that she's been working on. We had scheduled that for this month, but we moved it to August. So we would have only two this month because we needed to have Samantha's about fairs and achievement days. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca.
Well, I'm glad to be here. I do warn y'all that my teaching style can be a little erratic and very orange, despite me being a green. So let me get this shared and we will start this shindig. Share. There we go. There we go. Okay, I'm going to get rid of that because that's annoying to me. Oh, heavens, where'd it go? Never mind. Can y'all see it still?
Yeah, we can see it. Okay,
Okay.
you're sharing the notes page.
Oh, now I'm sharing the notes page. Hmm. Okay. Let me try this one more time. It's my first time sharing, so I do apologize, y'all. That's what I want to share. So, how about now?
You can put it in there you go. That's it right there.
There we go.
All
See,
right. Thanks.
takes me enough time so I can figure it out eventually. Okay, so there was the PYD Academy in, I believe it was February, and it was all about how Cloverbuds and interacting with youth in all of its awesomeness. Come to find out it was more than just Cloverbuds, which has allowed us to give this into this three-part series. So I was delegated the engaging junior high 4-Hers. So we're looking kind of the 6th grade to 8th graders. So I'm going to do some summarization of developmental needs of junior hires, how 4-H helps these youth to thrive and stay engaged. I want to discuss ACEs and how they kind of influence and change how youth interact with each other, interact with adults, interact with their environments, and also give some potential ways that we might, as a giant 4-H group of North Dakota, get some new ideas for engaging this age group. So everybody's seen the flower and getting us to youth to thrive and developmental outcomes and long-term outcomes, and it's a wonderful model. But something also that was showcased to us was this Foundations for Young Adult Success. And this is the culminating end of the program as they're leaving high school and going into their college career. All of these parts of their personalities have been developed. And this is the lovely progression. So as the circles become darker, that's where kids are putting more of their focus into it. as the things are light. They might be looking at it, but it's not part of their focus or what they're doing in their interactions with society. So looking at the early adolescence and a little bit also past that. But one of the things they're doing is they're in the need to fit in. They need to fit into a group. They need to find where they are in these groups. The peers start to become are more influential than their adults. It's important to treat both youth by their number age. Let's try this again. It's important to remember the age of these youth. Despite their height, their growing facial hair, we're starting to get mustaches. I don't know about y'all, but my 8th grader has a mustache. And my 6th grader is taller than my 8th grader. So despite these heights, the facial hair, the secondary sexual characteristics, and etc., we need to remember to treat our 11-year-olds as 11-year-olds, our 12-year-olds as 12-year-olds, and remember those chronological brain functions. Their identity is extremely important. So we will have a lot of pushback, a lot of questionings of the rules, questions about who they are. They are going to test every boundary and every consequence to ensure that it is steadfast and concrete. And one of the most important things they need is having 4-H and 4-H adults in their lives, as this may be the only consistent thing that they have. So adolescents thrive when they are interested, when their interests and needs are connected to opportunities. Relationships play an essential role. So as adolescents are starting to grow, as they're getting from their 6th grade to their 8th grade year, they're finding their new interests. And as they find these interests, we as 4-H adults as well as extension agents need to be thinking about what programs we can offer to them where their interests can then be expanded and elaborated, and being one of those trusted adults that they can have in their life to guide them and be their mentor. So this is one of the loveliest slides that was part of Dr. Joanne Williams's presentation. She was really showcasing where some of these places that these youth are coming about. Having safe and satisfying ways to explore the world and take healthy risks to test out new ideas and experiences. I can talk, I promise y'all. Real world scenarios help them to build and figure out, well, will this decision work? Positive ways to earn respect and social status, avenues to develop a sense of meaning and purpose, experiences that help to define personal values, and of course, what are we but the warmth and supportive adults and caregivers in their worlds. Now going on, this was another one that I absolutely loved. And though we've probably seen the developmental framework of support, I really liked the pictures and this pentagon that they had written up. So going through it, expressing care. They want us to show them that they matter to us. Be dependable, be a listener, believe in them, of course, be warm and encouraging. We need to challenge them in their growth, push them to be the best they ever can be. Definitely Go Army thought process there. Expect their best, stretch their expectations for themselves, stretch what they can do, give them opportunities to find that stretch within themselves. Hold them to accountability. These guys are already, they're big kids. They have opinions. They're forming those opinions. So giving them an opportunity to be accountable in a loving manner will help them to grow even further. And of course, give them opportunities to reflect on those failures. And again, in a very positive manner. Some of the best ways to learn is by failing. And if we do not give them the encouragement to find how they failed and how they can change from that failure, then it will become a stopping point for them. Of course, being that positive support. Help them to complete tasks and achieve goals. Navigate, advocate, set those boundaries. And yes, let them push them, but keep them firm. Empowerment is always an important thing. Share the power. I don't know about y'all, but I absolutely hate sharing my power. I'm really doing really good with my 4-Hers, but with my own personal children, the sharing of power is so very hard for me. I am right now struggling with my teenage group. So help them to treat them with respect and give them a say. These are our pre-adults. They have opinions, they have ideas. We need to guide those and share that power with them. Be that support that they need. So when they do stumble backwards, we can be like, okay, now try this idea and see if it works. Of course, giving them that respect, including them, leading them. Let them lead. And again, giving them that power to fail and then relearn how to be better leaders. And of course, you'll be surprised how much their collaboration and their ideas can surpass your own. I just did a STEM activity with a series of fourth graders to sixth graders. And all I ever did was instruct them to build a ramp for a marble to go down to bowl. I was thinking of your standard three-sided ramp. This kid blew me away. He put it into a circle, supported it with 2 straws, and he was done. That collaboration, that thinking outside the skills, that giving that kid the power to figure out how to do this machine was incredible. I would have never done it. So giving them that opportunity to lead and to give them that opportunity to be an equal collaborator, you will be surprised about the ideas that they will come up with. And of course, expand possibilities. Connect them with people and places that broaden my world. I don't know about y'all, but the way that I got my first job was I knew somebody who knew somebody, and my reputation preceded me. So being that opportunity, that adult in their life, and say, yes, I have seen this kid help others through their achievement days. I have seen them be the leader in 4-H groups. I have seen them work when not asked to be that people. Expand those possibilities. Be that advocate for them in their next step. So at the very bottom, I have those 5 pentagons of encouragement with little tiny sayings. So express care. Show me that I matter to you. Challenge growth. Push me to keep getting better. Provide that support. Help me complete tasks and achieve goals. Share power. Treat me with respect and give me a say. Not tell me what to do, but give me part of my opportunities. Expand those possibilities. Connect me with people and places that will broaden my world and make it that much better. Okay, so ACEs. What is ACEs? I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but it is the points that are kind of against our kids because of their traumas, be it from poverty, be it from broken homes, be it from bullying, whatever is in their lives can cause a lot of trauma and damage to these kids. So the childhood trauma can give an explanation for the reason why they're acting out, why they are doing the things they are doing. It was also stated that with the increased number of ACEs, you can also lower the age in comparison. So if you have a high ACE kid who's a 12-year-old, they may actually be acting closer to what you would expect an 8-year-old. So one of the things I would like you to, I don't know if in 4-H we have learned this, but I learned this during a teaching class that I took this past semester. It's called Maslow's hierarchy of need. And these ACE kids have a tendency to be stuck in the psychological and the safety levels because they're maybe not getting the food and water. They're not getting the sleep. They're not having the safe home. They're going to be trying to find that somewhere else. They're not going to be needing the loving relationship. They're not going to need the blue ribbons and the esteem. They need that safe location. They need that food. They need that place to stop running away from the bear that's going to eat them. So making sure to help them understand that they do in fact matter, that they come to you and they have a safe place. They come to you and you have that granola bar or that piece of apple. Then they know that they can always come to you for those things. This may apply more to the teachers in their lives, but we again are also one of those trusted adults that they will have in contact with. So helping them to gain those trusted locations can reduce the ACE's effects upon them in your programming. Be open to knowing that kids may be acting out, not because they're bad, but because they have a trigger, a food insecurity, not know how to explain their actions. They may not even know that what they're doing is unacceptable. Taught to be like this. I was a foster parent at one point, and it was told to us that your foster child may go into the store and steal because that was a happy memory they had with their biological parents. That they did that as a group thing to do, that they did it together and it brought happy memories. Or that these children never had a consistent food in their homes. So having food hidden underneath their beds prevents them from having anxiety over not having enough food. This may be hard to deal with and this is going to be hard for all of us to do, but it's going to be hardest during those adolescent years, through that sixth grade to eighth grade years, because this is where their brain is being turned back to mush and is being rebuilt. So if we can help to eliminate some of these ACEs effects that they've had, maybe they'll have a higher probability of surviving and getting into those higher levels of Maslow. Okay, so some ideas that were in the breakout rooms on this exploration day. Two of them that really resonated to me was from Hawaii and from, oh, I cannot remember what state it was. But Hawaii's 4-H camp, Kuakua, was called a place-based activity. So they developed workbooks, recipes, cooking, games, lessons, and it was a day camp where these kids learned about cooking, but they also learned about their native heritage, their native foods. And in Hawaii, they don't have a lot of Hawaii 4-H curriculum. They're starting to develop it and they're starting to enjoy it. So being able to have these kids help you to develop something that works for your community might be something that would give them not only power, but voices in their communities. And that's what I want you to kind of take away from that particular camp idea. The other one, I'm going to butcher this, is the Hoetos 4-H success coaching. This is a peer coaching for success during and after junior high and high school. So these 4-Hers would be the mentors, especially the 8th to 12th grade students. And they helped each other, and we had kind of this big brother, little brother kind of a concept going on. You can pull in community members to be those coaches as these kids are going through their junior high and high school year. You could have those upperclassmen, those seniors and juniors, be the mentor for your little 6th and 7th and 8th graders as they're starting to navigate their junior high life. So those are two ways to get this group of students involved in 4-H is having them be those leaders, be those big brothers, those big sisters to the little 4-Hers that are not quite little, but still little-ish. Okay, so my main takeaways that I really want you guys to think about and give me questions on includes the main picture off to our far left. As we're going through these years, as the 6th to 8th grade, we are changing our mindsets. We're getting a lot more agency. We have a group-based identity. We're finding our identity more through what our peers think of us than what our adults are thinking of us. Knowing and understanding Maslow's hierarchy of need, getting those kids to understand that they are safe, that they can come to us for those foods, for those basic needs, can then help them to find that loving relationship, to find the self-esteem, to be those confident individuals that we all know that they are. And of course, going through the 5 ways to truly support these students by expressing our care, challenging their growth, providing that necessary support, not overshadowing, but up support, sharing our power. Despite us not wanting to, we've got to do it. And of course, be that person that can expand those possibilities, be those advocates, and be those stepping stones for those students. So, as LeMegan stated, in August we have Brianna coming up. I'm not sure if she's going to be hitting all of these things. This is what we had from our Clover Bud, but it's going to be talking more about those high school youth. Okay, that was really fast. So I would appreciate everybody giving me as many questions as possible on this so that I can fill in any gaps that I might have missed.
I have a question, Rebecca. Talk about how you're going to keep that age group really engaged in your 4-H program too. Like we talked about, and I liked how you talked about all the different things to look for in their needs. But what do you think are the best ways to really target that group to make sure they stay involved in our programs?
Well, I do know that we are encouraged as 4-H agents to have them on our 4-H councils. But so many of us, again, have our 4-H adults who are kind of squishing those youth voices. So in all reality, have them on our councils, but also talk with our fellow 4-H youth adults and say, hey, let's make sure that we are all supporting them to bring it in their voice. We need these voices. We know that they are important to us. So having them on our 4-H councils is probably one of the best ways. But just as important, we need to have them being the leaders in our 4-H clubs. Again, encouraging our adults to be just silent supports. Okay, you've missed this. Don't forget to get this into the agenda. Oh, you've done great, but we missed this. So let's get that put into the agenda again. Okay, yeah, turn us over. We'll do the announcements and we'll put it back to you. It's more of we need to make sure that we are encouraging and training our fellow adults to do this. And again, having those peer opportunities, having our day camps, again, see what adults, or try this again, see what youth feel confident to run the showmanship clinic of the sheep, of the lambs, of the beef. Have those kids encourage those older youth to be the teachers and the leaders of their fellow 4-H youth. Now, when it comes to teaching in classrooms, because that's what I mainly do, is go into classrooms to do it. I have a tendency to encourage them by not giving all of the information. I'm like, okay, here's their basic idea. Now, in a group, what you gonna do? How are you going to solve this problem? And we were just on the STEM working group plan yesterday, and we're thinking about encouraging kids through the state word STEM to do real world scenarios. What can we fix? So having maybe an opportunity to, even as a Zoom or as a countywide challenge, to do those real world and have those peer mentors. Those would be some of the ideas. I don't know how practical they would be and how well they would work, but that would be something I would want to do eventually throughout my 4-H career. And we got the definition of ACEs. It's adverse childhood experiences. Thank you. I had forgotten what it meant, but the more you have, it's amazing what they can do. Please ask questions. I'm not an expert, but I can attempt at it. I play one on TV periodically.
I think too, this is Sandy, sorry. I think too, I have older kids that I've been trying to keep. I think that we find that throughout the whole 4-H program is keeping those older kids. But I have found that if I've got a saying, let me see if I get it. It's youth-led, adult supervised. So I'm
Correct.
trying very hard to let my youth decide. And then if it's way, way crazy, then I'm like, well, let's back it up. But I also have found that my kids enjoy the older kids. For instance, we have the exotic sale here that every year, and I have 4 or 5 of them that go every year to help out with moving the animals. And I find that they really, really like doing community service. And I think sometimes giving them that opportunity works too a little bit better, and just treating them like your kids, you know?
Yep. It's amazing how much just giving them that responsibility helps them to say, yep, I can do this.
Rebecca,
Oh,
do you,
Rebecca, go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. I was just saying, Rebecca, do you have any suggestions about how to train your volunteers to model like what Sandy was talking about, being youth-led, adult-supported, like ideas to teach them that concept?
Kind ideas? No. Probably, to tell you the truth, doing that modeling that we had at spring conference would probably be a fun way to start it, where you and get a couple of fellow agents or volunteers that agree with you and model taking over the classroom and saying, okay, is this what you want to have be treated like as a successful individual? Well, this is how we're treating these very intelligent, capable youth. By taking over, we're making them, one, less capable to do it, and two, they're thinking, well, you're going to do it anyway, so what's the point of me doing it? So helping them to see that these are, in a lot of ways, mini adults. This is at the time where they're learning how to be that adult. And if they don't have experience to try and be that adult, then they're going to fail when they actually do become that adult at 18. It's always best to try and fail in a safe location than to try and fail where you're going to fall off the cliff. So it's, again, we have to role model it in a classroom setting to our 4-H volunteers. Help them understand it. Yep, and reminding them that failure is good. We need to fail as adults, we need to fail as children, because again, learning from our failures, we learn so much more from failures than we ever do from successes. And emphasizing that failure is great.
So do you have any suggestions how we can get that point across to adults? Because I have witnessed kids fail at showing animals or kids fail at competitions or whatever. And it seems like most adults, they will step in to fix it because they can't have a kid fail. That mentality seems to be present. And, our school systems to some degree aren't set up for failure, because failure means you did poorly and you're not going to be that honor student or whatever the case may be. So, just some ideas or thoughts on how we address this to adults to let our kids fail, because if most parents, if their kid's failing, they can't handle that and they got to correct it.
I have a feeling that it's generational, to tell you the truth.
I
As
was
you look,
gonna agree with that totally. It's because as me who has a teenage daughter right now, I have to like completely honestly back off and run in the closet and hide because I want to fix it and I know fixing it. And then I'm just coming from a parent's point of view. Fixing it is what you want to do because you don't want them to feel that failure because you know what it feels like too. So I think making people realize that is probably the hardest part of doing anything, is making adults or volunteers see it's okay to fail, because failure in some ways also reflects on their leadership skills, and they don't want that because then that shows that they're weak in their leadership skills because the kids are failing. Do you see what I'm saying? And then
Yeah.
that in that case that goes back to the fact that they're failures then too, because they didn't produce top crop or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with Sandra totally, because it kind of is a double-edged sword, and maybe Megan, you can chime in here a little bit, but that's what I struggle with, because I mean, if they did something, I feel it's an accomplishment, even though they maybe didn't get grand champion or a blue ribbon or whatever the case may be. But it seems like with our 4-H leaders and stuff like that, we're not getting that message across, because if they're a 4-H leader and their club doesn't do well at something like that, well, I feel as a leader, and then a lot of them drop off, or we didn't accomplish whatever, and then we lose a lot of our volunteers because their kids in their clubs or whatever aren't totally successful. So then they actually can't handle failure, and then their way of doing it is not becoming a leader anymore.
So my 3 cents to this is we as extension agents need to help our adults to realize that not only our 4-Hers failures, but our failures as parents, as leaders, are all acceptable. But at the same time, I have a feeling that it has a lot to do with generational upbringings. And how to address that, I'm not quite sure. But emphasizing it at every possible time and giving that positive feedback to our kids, to our adults, to everybody. Yes, you failed, but this is what we've learned. Yes, we failed, but this is what you did great at. Yeah, that calf just drug you across, but did you let go? No. Did you
So,
get back
Rebecca,
up? Did you cry? How are you doing? Yep, you're good. Okay, that
Rebecca, I'm gonna
rabbit,
pause you
go for it.
because I think we need to change the vocabulary from failure, because we're not failing. Anytime a youth or anyone is attempting to do something, they're not failing. Just because the outcome isn't what they had intended to be, that doesn't mean that they're failing. They're learning, they're growing. Just because they didn't get the outcome that they wanted doesn't mean that they failed. So I think we need to change the vocabulary from failure as a whole.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think as a whole, like, you know, in our meetings, in our group, in our organization, we need to educate first off, like, we're not failing. Like, just because we make a mistake, like, you're not failing. You're growing. You're learning. Like it is a process. Like, you know, we're as adults, we make mistakes every day. Like, but that's part of life. So like I think if kids see, just because we're adults, we're not perfect. And we don't ever intend to have you be perfect. Because I think, especially the way that kids are brought up nowadays, I think some parents push like perfect
Perfection.
perfection on their
Perfection.
kids. And I think if we give them an opportunity and a safe space for them to learn and to grow and to be not perfect and to go outside of their box, then they'll be more willing and more willing and more adaptable to try new things and to try to break out of that box, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it
You've,
makes a lot of sense.
but you've brought up another excellent point. It's vocabulary. How do we internalize, how do we understand vocabulary of words? It all depends on what we've been taught throughout our lives. The word failure is not a negative word in my world. It is an accurate term to me. So learning new words to express and to soften those words is an excellent thing to do. I just learned the other day that according to some other colleagues in Georgia, the word mulatto is a very negative term. I've never understood it as a negative term. I have been in councils where the word testimony is so churchy to them that they took it out of bylaws. So yes, I agree. Failure has been used in a very negative connotation for too long, but it is still a very accurate word. And yes, we do need to learn how to soften it for our youth, but I'm not sure I would be willing to soften it for my adult. But we all know who our volunteers are. We know how to interact with our volunteers. We know how to interact with our youth. We will know what words are best for our youth and for our adults. So yes, please use the vocabulary, use the words that you know will be taken with the kindest intention, with the best of intentions, with the greatest amount of success.
Rebecca, I did have a suggestion for Craig if he's interested in listening.
Go for it.
So something you might think about doing when you're talking to these adults is asking them, like pushing it back on them, like, why did you get involved in 4-H? What are some things you loved about being in 4-H? Like, give me an example. And if they give you an example that involves like no hands-on adults whatsoever, be like, how do you think you would have felt as a child if an adult would have walked into that and took over? Like when you guys were in 4-H, it was a different time. You guys had the ability to really be individuals, to do things on your own. Your parents were very hands off. We should be giving these kids those same opportunities, letting them learn, letting them do what they need to do to figure things out.
Yeah, I totally agree. I get it, but I just don't know how to send it across to my people. Like, and Rebecca touched on a good deal there. It's the terminology of the terms. I mean, I never have figured out why a failure on a school grading system, 70% or less, you failed. Well, no, I would say 70%. If you got a 70% on the test, you gained 70% knowledge. 70% is a lot of knowledge gained. That's the way I look at it. So I don't know. That's just my philosophy. But I was fortunate to came from a background where failure was acceptable as long as you put in the effort. If you didn't put in the effort and then failed, that's a whole nother story. But if you put in the effort, it wasn't looked at that as failure. But it's just like Rebecca said, it's a generational thing, and every family is going to look at it totally different. So it's just something you have to do. Is just to explain.
Hey, Craig, do you have a lot of people in your county that does like horse shows or cattle or anything like that?
We
Because
have, we have a fair amount, but not a huge amount, but we have a fair amount, yes.
here's my thing. I do hippology as a coach and everything, and we went to a judging contest thing that teaching about reasons and stuff like that. And the coaches were asked to do the reasons, to do a class and do the reasons. And holy bucket, did I bite it hard on that, you know? And I think sometimes putting those parents into the positions of what our kids are doing now and sit and, you know, because a lot of times we can sit down and tell them, you know, you say this, this, and this, but until you do it yourself, it's a lot easier said than done. And maybe putting your parents in those positions of what the kids are going through and then them realizing that they're not as well equipped as they thought they were. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. Yeah.
Because I can tell you, I went home very, very humbled after that. I was like, okay, I'm never saying anything again.
And I think this is a good discussion we're having right now. It's excellent. I like everybody's comments. And as we move into county fairs and achievement days with those ribbons, blue, red, and white, I know you just all of a sudden just think white or red, oh, that's bad or whatever. But if you really think about it, you really learn more from that red ribbon or the white ribbon because there's more room to grow and have a growth mindset. So I don't, what we've been talking about, I don't think it's going to be an overnight change. I just think it's going to be us modeling the way and instilling that mindset in our volunteers and our youth and training our volunteers about these concepts that we've talked about today and kind of just changing that whole their way of thinking and really using that whole thrive model with the flower and talking about the different pieces and growth mindset and how that it's a room to learn and a room to grow and not necessarily bad that they made a mistake or they left out a part that hey next time we're going to add that to it and then it's room to grow and to do better. So I think it starts with us and then us educating our volunteers. And so I think as y'all move into your county fairs and achievement days, it's a good time to kind of put this into practice.
Yeah, I agree with you, Megan. I try to, I mean, most of you guys, I know you do. Everybody on the call here has at least a college education, you know, but I think of it as a thesis process. Boy, before I could get that accepted, I must have did that damn thing 5 times. Well, that's a process, but I don't know how we get that process across to some of our people where they think they got to succeed on the first crack. And if you really think about it, most of the time you're not going to be 95, 100% on the first crack of something that you've done for the first time. It's not going to usually happen that way.
I appreciate what you said, Lynette, about how reflecting on doing better and that whole reflection piece. And that's kind of what we talked about also in spring training too, with the whole do reflect, apply piece of the experiential learning model. And a lot of times, and I was totally guilty of this when I was an agent, I just was like, do. You just ran from one activity to the next and just really being intentional about reflecting on what they learned and what you can do better next time. And then how those skills like apply to life and how you're going to take it, one step further outside of that activity. And so I was totally guilty of not including those pieces. But if we can all practice that and try to be intentional and reflecting, then I think it's going to produce better young people as we move forward in our programming. So it's not going to happen overnight. It takes practice, and I was not the best at it. So I continue to try to get better with that too. Does any more questions for Rebecca? These are a great discussion. I appreciate all the insight here today.
I guess I have one more.
Okay,
Like,
great.
how do you, like, I know you want these adolescents, 6th to 8th graders to trust you, but where does it come? Where's the line between trust and like responsibility? Like how far, where, I guess I'm not trying to, where's the line? I mean, because they can trust you, but yet it really depends on the actions of the person or the behavior of the person, on what they're doing too. So where do you draw the line on that? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I guess I'm not sure. I got it in my mind.
I'm going to try and understand your question and answer what I think you're trying to ask. And if I'm wrong, redirect me. Sound good? Okay.
Yeah. Sure.
So you start with repertoire. So you know them, they know you. You both trust each other. You both know each other. You both know each other's names. It may take a little bit. And then you give a small section of power to them. They do well with that power. You get them a larger chunk of power. They do well with that. They get a larger chunk of power. And it's a built one step on it, brick by brick, moment by moment, opportunity by opportunity. But it all starts with that general foundation of, do we know each other? And if we know each other, then we can learn to have a trust for each other. Everybody's calling me today. Did that answer your question, or do I need to expand it somewhere else?
No, you did well. So it's a step up process. It's just you gotta. I mean, I trust these kids, but then yet you gotta kind of just ask a little more questions to see how much more you can trust them. So
we are still helicoptering over them.
I can't. I mean, that's just me being me. Yes, I do trust 11-year-olds, but I just, in the back of my mind, it's like, God, I can't trust them 100%. They're only 11 years old.
So your little 11-year-olds are not going to have the same trustable power as your 15-year-olds, your 14 and 15-year-olds, let alone have the same trust power you have for that 17, 18-year-old. Your little 11-year-olds, they're going to be great going in a hole, grabbing all of their friends so that you have your little chicken cluster. Your 12-year-olds, oh, they're doing better. Okay, they can be maybe the all-encompassing powerful over the cluster of chickens. Then your 13-year-old comes along or your 14-year-old, and they have tiny clusters of chickens of kids, and they're being overseen by someone else, but they're like a lieutenant. And it's those little tiny power things. Your little 11-year-olds, they're like, okay, you go do that, come back. You go do that, come back. It's that little tiny powers that you can give. What can you have? Okay, I need more buns. Go get more buns. Okay, I need more sodas. Go get me more sodas. I need this table set up with this tablecloth on it. Go. It's those little tiny things. And it's amazing how that little cluster of chickens being given those tiny little things, poof, they've gotten power. They're feeling powerful. But the amount of power they've been given is about big. And yet they feel like they're on the top of the mountain because the big, strong extension agent, the big, strong high schooler gave them this job. It's those little powers. You start with little powers, and then you get bigger powers and bigger powers and bigger powers until they're your 18-year-old that's running half your show for you because they've been your little left-hand chicken since day one.
I've always been trained to think about it as a trust bank. So the more deposits you make, the more like you're building that trust. And the more trust that's there, like you could probably take a deposit or two, but the more deposits you take, the less they're going to trust. It breaks down even more.
Another thing, Craig, too, in my experience is that as you're working with especially those older youth in your program, is that they tell you a lot of stuff and you see a lot of stuff, and not sharing everything like that with maybe their parents, creating that trust too between them, that you're not going to be the kind of the tattletale back to their parents. And then, you know, putting it out there too, that the stuff that they're sharing with you, you know, you appreciate, you know, them sharing life things with you and stuff like that. But once it reaches, you know, be upfront with them. Once it reaches a level of like safety for themselves or others, that's when you need to take it to, you know, another adult, and making sure you're telling them that. I tell kids when I was in the county program that all the time. You know, you can tell me anything you want. There was car rides where I would have them having conversations in the back that I'm like, should I be hearing this or not? But it wasn't being hurtful. It wasn't, you know, anything that was gonna put anyone in jeopardy or anything like that. But if something were to come up where it was, you know, going to jeopardize their safety or others, then you bet I'm going to turn on and tell a parent. And just being really open and honest with them and telling them, you know, that's your job to make sure that they're safe, and telling them that, you know, if you can say anything in front of me and tell me anything, but once you cross that line, then I have to let your folks or your guardians know. So, you know, that is one thing that has been good for me, because then I'm not going back and tattling, you know, on them and saying, hey, do you know what Craig did today during the 4-H meeting, and those kind of things. You know, parents don't need to know every bit of information. Sometimes those are things that you can look back on years later. Like example, Morgan in the office, she used to be one of my 4-H hippology girls, and if her mom knew some of the things that we did in the hippology van, going to contests, you know, she would just giggle, but she doesn't need to know all that. You know, it's between us. So.
Any other questions for the attempted presenter? Cool. This was very fun. Thanks for listening to me.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca, for your presentation today. It was very insightful. I like all the discussion, especially as we're fixing to have fairs and achievement days and all that. And that's a good thing to keep it at the top of our mind. So don't forget Monday, this coming Monday, we're having a Wednesday on a Monday. So Monday at 1 p.m., Samantha Lawman is going to be talking about getting ready for county fairs and achievement days. And so I'll send that reminder out tomorrow. And then we'll skip June and July, and we'll pick back up our webinar Wednesdays in August. So thanks for joining, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.